Shadows in the Desert, an Odyssey of the 1980s. The chill of a foggy London evening in autumn 1983 had a way of making secrets feel heavier, almost palpable, as if the city's damp stones were privy to the clandestine whispers of history. James Ellis, a thoughtful yet restless man in his mid-30s with salt and pepper hair and an air of quiet determination, walked briskly down Fleet Street. The echoes of his polished Oxford shoes on cobblestones mixed with murmurs of late-night conversations escaping from dim-lit pubs. Ever since his return from a brief academic stint in archaeology, James had sensed that life was drawing him into a blend of mystery, danger, and enthralling adventure. Clutched in his hand was an aged, brittle envelope containing a faded map and a cryptic note written in spidery ink. "Follow the traces of the ancients, destiny awaits in the ancient sands." James's mind wandered to the days spent poring over dusty volumes in the British Library, delving into the enigmas of lost civilizations. The map appeared to be an odd composite of details that resonated with his scholarly passion, hints of locations in Cairo, the Sinai Peninsula, and even a subtle reference to a hidden chamber beneath the pyramids of Giza. With London's relentless drizzle as his backdrop, he resolved that his lifelong academic curiosity was about to morph into something far more practical and dangerous. Later that night at a quiet coffeehouse near St. Paul's, James met with his old friend and confidant, Daniel Carter. Daniel, a wiry man with a quick wit and eyes that seemed to miss nothing, was no stranger to covert operations. "I never took you for a treasure hunter," Daniel remarked, stirring his espresso while James spread out the map on the table. "But the way you talk about forgotten relics and desert secrets, you'd give Indiana Jones a run for his money." "I'm not looking for lost artifacts, Daniel. I'm compelled by something deeper, a promise, perhaps a call from the past," James replied, leaning forward as if to share a secret with the dim light of the coffeehouse. "There's a pattern here, an invitation to uncover what might be the legacy of an ancient civilization." Daniel's eyes narrowed in intrigue. "You really believe this note is more than just the idle scribbling of someone with a romantic notion of history?" he asked cautiously, flicking his gaze between the map and his friend's earnest expression. "I mean, what if it's a trap?" Before James could answer, a stranger in a tailored trench coat slid into the booth at a neighboring table. The man wore a calm smile and introduced himself as Oliver Reed, a former intelligence operative who had since turned his back on government life in favor of a private career in investigation. "Gentlemen," Oliver said in a measured tone, his British accent smooth and deliberate, "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. There's been some rather troubling intel suggesting that this map you speak of might hint at a conspiracy run deep by operatives whose interests span continents." Over the following hours, the three men pored over historical documents and coded messages between elaborate lines of medieval calligraphy and modern military shorthand. Oliver explained that a secretive group rumored to have ties with Cold War operatives and set on controlling ancient sources of power had been known to manipulate both artifacts and information. "In Cairo," he whispered, as if speaking too loudly might awaken dormant ghosts, "there are whispers of a hidden chamber beneath the Great Pyramid that is reputed to house relics of unimaginable power. Some say the relics could change the fate of nations if they fall into the wrong hands." As dawn broke over London's skyline, the trio decided they could no longer confine themselves to theoretical debates and dusty archives. With tickets in hand, they set a course for Cairo in the late spring of 1984, each of them driven by personal demons and unyielding ambition. The journey to Egypt was a mosaic of contrasting experiences, a smooth flight from Heathrow that ended with the dusty heat of Cairo's bustling streets and the vibrant chaos of markets lined with spices, crisp linens, and the allure of mystery. The old city offered a labyrinth of allegories woven by time, where every alley and shadowed courtyard seemed to whisper of ancient secrets. James, Daniel, and Oliver quickly found an ally in Helena Ward, a resourceful Egyptian-British journalist whose inquisitive nature and courage were well known. Helena had spent years chronicling stories that defied the ordinary and had a knack for reading people as if they were open books. "I know these streets, and I've talked to men hiding behind veils of silence," she said as she met the trio near the Nile's edge. I believe your map could be the key to a story much larger than national rivalries or petty adventures. It's about the very soul of Egypt's past. In an atmosphere charged with anticipation and the tangible aroma of history, the four set off towards Giza. Their journey was fraught with tension and adventure as they encountered obstacles engineered by the secretive organization. One humid afternoon, after a long drive along the desert highways outside Cairo, a blackened Land Rover blocked their route. From behind tinted windows, armed henchmen in dark uniforms emerged as a challenge under the oppressive sun. James's heart pounded as he exchanged glances with Daniel and Helena. Oliver calmly reached for a battered leather satchel at his side and whispered, "Stay alert. We might be surrounded by those who want this map to remain hidden forever." "Who are you?" a gruff voice demanded as one of the masked figures stepped forward. "Your journey ends here if you cooperate." "We have no quarrel with you," Helena replied, maintaining a steady voice that belied her inner trepidation. "We only seek truth. Perhaps we share the same enemy." The standoff escalated into a brief but intense exchange of gunfire and evasive maneuvers across the scorching asphalt. James and Daniel took cover behind a concrete barrier, while Oliver and Helena managed a counter-offensive that disarmed several assailants by targeting crucial gaps in their formation. In the ensuing chaos, a tense dialogue ensued between James and the group's leader, a burly figure known only as Captain Malik. "There is honor among those who understand destiny," Captain Malik barked between rounds, eyes darting over the chaotic scene. "Turn back, and we might let you live. But if you persist, you risk awakening forces beyond your control." Despite the peril, James's voice rang clear. "Our desire for truth surpasses fear. Without knowing our past, how can we shape a future?" he declared. A pause fell over the dusty scene as the captain considered his words, his gaze shifting between James's resolute expression and the effective teamwork demonstrated by his companions. After what seemed like an eternity, the henchmen slowly retreated, leaving the four in a momentary lull, a silence that resonated with both relief and an ominous promise of further conflict. The encounter galvanized the group. They realized that the secretive organization was not just a shadowy force, but one with far-reaching influence, capable of orchestrating events across continents. Their next objective was the enigmatic structure rumored to conceal the relic, a subterranean labyrinth beneath the Great Pyramid itself. Under cover of darkness, they arranged a covered entry. Helena, whose local connections proved invaluable, procured permits and arranged a discreet guide named Rami, a wiry fellow with deep knowledge of Giza's secret routes. Deep within the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the pyramid, the air was thick with dust, decaying hieroglyphs, and the heavy weight of centuries past. James led the way, deciphering carved inscriptions that spoke of gods, curses, and the eternal cycle of life and death. "You must be cautious," Oliver warned in a hushed tone, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Many have sought these relics, but not many have returned to tell their tale." At one point, Daniel paused before a wall etched with the rising and setting of the sun. "These symbols, they're like a roadmap of time," he mused in awe. Helena examined them closely. "They suggest that the relic is not simply a treasure, but a key, a device designed to unlock a power that predates written history." Further into their descent, the pathway began to resemble a defensive maze. Ancient traps, long dormant, were awakened by their intrusion. James narrowly evaded a swinging stone blade when a hidden mechanism activated, triggering an avalanche of loose rubble that thundered down a narrow corridor. "Watch your steps," he cried, urging Daniel to leap aside in the nick of time. Each near-fatal misstep only deepened the resolve that had stealthily coalesced within each of them. Time and again, the group found themselves testing fate's mercy. In a cavern where the walls glittered with embedded minerals and the echoes of dripping water created a haunting melody, Oliver and Helena discovered a sealed door inscribed with warnings in ancient hieroglyphs. "We must be the first to return here in centuries," Oliver remarked, his voice imbued with both wonder and trepidation. The door required a particular combination of pressure plates aligned with depicted celestial patterns. With patience born of academic rigor and instinct honed through danger, James and Daniel worked in unison to unlock its mechanism, The door groaned open, revealing a vast chamber where the relic, a finely wrought artifact of gold and lapis lazuli, rested atop an ornate pedestal, bathed in ethereal light. Before they could approach, the silence was shattered by the echoing footsteps of armored intruders. The secretive organization had not given up its pursuit. A ruthless operative named Victor Kane, whose reputation in covert circles was equal parts myth and terror, stepped forward from the ranks. "You should never have come here," Victor snarled, his voice dripping with condescension as he circled the group. "The relic belongs to those who rule destiny, and you are mere interlopers." The confrontation escalated to a fevered melee, a swirling dance of desperate combat in the shadow of history. Helena and Daniel managed to create a diversion, hurling themselves into the labyrinthine corridors, while James, Oliver, and Victor clashed in the vast chamber. Swords clanged against reinforced scabbards, and bullets ricocheted off the ancient stone. Amid the tumult, James shouted over the din, "Victor, you might be able to seize the relic, but you'll never harness the truth it protects." Victor's retort was a grim smile and a determined glint in his eyes as he lunged forward. "The truth is but a weapon, my friend. And I intend to wield it." The struggle was harrowing. Each blow of metal and shout of defiance was steeped in the legacy of ancient battles. Oliver's tactical acumen and Helena's daring improvisation soon shifted the advantage. Daniel, though unarmed, proved his worth by disabling enemy traps and guiding his comrades through secret passages with the calm intuition of someone who had danced with danger all his life. In a climactic moment that verged on surreal, James managed to secure the relic by dodging a fatal thrust from Victor's gleaming dagger, using the artifact's reflective surface to momentarily blind his foe. Victor staggered back, cursing in a mix of exasperation and fury, while James clutched the relic to his chest, understanding that its power was meant not for domination but for the illumination of history's hidden paths. The ensuing quiet was punctuated only by heavy breaths and the distant sounds of retreat. The ancient chamber's dusty light revealed the toll of their struggle, a testament to lives nearly lost and destinies dramatically rewritten. "We have it," whispered Helena, her voice trembling as much from adrenaline as from the profound weight of what had been altered. "But what do we do now?" James surveyed his companions, each marked by courage and scarred by the scars of battle. "Now," he said softly, "we return to the surface with a new understanding. This relic is not for one man, empire, or regime. It is a symbol of our collective heritage, a signal that the past has much to teach us about the future." In the days that followed, the journey from the subterranean labyrinth to the chaotic neon streets of Cairo felt like a rebirth. The relic was kept safe under tight security by Helena, who had already begun penning an expose that promised to upend prevailing narratives about ancient Egypt's legacy. Daniel and Oliver stayed vigilant as unseen shadows continued to follow their movements. Victor Kane, wounded in pride and body, had vowed that this was far from the end. At a bustling cafe overlooking the Nile, over cups of strong, bitter coffee, the allies planned their next steps with a cautious optimism. "We've exposed one thread of an intricate tapestry, but there are many more," Oliver remarked, his eyes scanning the horizon where the city's modern skyline met the remnants of ancient monuments. "This relic was only one piece in a puzzle that spans time and continents." Helena leaned in, her tone both excited and grave. "I've been contacted by sources in Paris and Rome. There are similar artifacts lost, hidden, and fiercely guarded. Each holds a fragment of a long-forgotten enigma that once united great empires." James nodded slowly as he sipped his coffee, recollecting the moments beneath the Great Pyramid. "We must follow these clues while remaining one step ahead of those who would use these relics for sinister purposes." What we discovered in the dark tunnels was not merely about power, it was about responsibility. A new chapter of adventure beckoned on the horizon, a journey that would take them from the sweltering bazaars of Cairo to the rain-soaked alleys of Paris and the narrow, winding streets of Rome. The group soon found themselves boarding a chartered flight to Paris in the summer of 1984. The City of Lights, with its timeless charm and hidden rendezvous points behind every corner, offered not only the thrill of the unknown but also a calculated risk of exposing secrets to global powers. Arriving at Charles de Gaulle Airport, Daniel mused. Paris may be known for elegance and art, but every city hides its own labyrinth of treachery. His comment was met with quiet agreement as Helena began correlating historical landmarks with a series of cryptic clues discovered in an ancient manuscript. Their investigation led them through the winding lanes of Montmartre, beneath the gilded arches of the Louvre's lesser-known wings, and into clandestine meeting rooms where whispers of conspiracies mingled with the distant strains of accordions playing on the street. It wasn't long until they encountered an antiquities expert named Marcus Allen, whose expertise in Renaissance relics was surpassed only by his passion for conspiracy theories. In a cramped, book-lined study in central Paris, Marcus revealed astonishing connections between the Egyptian relic and a series of enigmatic artifacts scattered across Europe. You see, he explained with fervor during one of their intense discussions, the Egyptians believed that the relic was part of a vast cosmic mechanism. It linked the heavens with the earth, an echo of celestial order. His words painted a vision of interconnected secrets from the time when civilizations were young. Helena interjected, "There's a pattern here. If we follow the historical breadcrumbs correctly, we may find a unifying key to an ancient code that has survived millennia, hidden in plain sight among the relics of empires." But, Marcus, be warned, you are treading dangerous territory. Many who have come close to unraveling this mystery have met untimely ends. Marcus's eyes glimmered in the dim light of the study as he leaned forward. I've spent my life chasing ghosts, and now I have tangible proof that these ghosts are very much alive. I once lost a dear friend to the very same machinations we now face. I pledge my expertise and every resource at my disposal to help you. Underneath Paris's veneer of cultured sophistication, however, lurked adversaries eager to reclaim what they deemed rightfully theirs. On a rainy evening near the Seine, as the four James, Helena, Daniel, and Marcus exited a hidden entrance to a subterranean archive beneath an old canal warehouse, a black sedan pulled up silently. Inside, a composed but sinister figure in a dark suit emerged. It was Victor Kane once again, now accompanied by a specialized team from an international coalition with allegiances hidden behind layers of geopolitical subterfuge. I warned you, Victor intoned as he approached with an unsettling calm, that meddling with forces like these inevitably attracts the wrong kind of attention. Hand over the relic, and I promise you a chance to live. James's hand instinctively moved to the pocket where the relic was safely ensconced. The relic was never meant to be a bargaining chip in a game of power, he replied evenly. It is a beacon, a reminder that our history is not simply a record of triumph but also of the sacrifices made to preserve truth. A standoff ensued in the rain-soaked darkness beneath Paris. Bullets whispered past ancient stones, and the clatter of hurried footsteps echoed beneath dim lamplight. Marcus, drawing from his well of unexpected courage, darted behind barrels and old crates as he attempted to secure valuable documents that could help their cause. Helena, maintaining her composure, coordinated with James and Daniel to form a temporary barricade while Oliver, having rejoined the group after a brief absence, moved silently to flank the adversaries. The ensuing struggle was as much a battle of wits as of arms. Each participant was driven by a conviction that went beyond personal survival. In a moment of daring clarity amidst the chaos, Daniel managed a bold maneuver. "Now, everyone," he cried, rallying his friends as he led a determined dash through the labyrinthine corridors of the archive. Their flight through narrow passageways and hidden stairwells was punctuated by a series of whispered plans, urgent instructions, and the raw energy of survival. The delicate relic was secured, and with it, an unyielding commitment to expose the secrets that many feared. The chase continued into the early hours, winding through the abandoned basements of an old Parisian mansion whose walls had witnessed more than a century of secrets. The dim glow of chandeliers, glistening with the remnants of past grandeur, lent the scenes a haunting beauty. As Victor Kane and his cohorts pursued them relentlessly, James's voice broke the heavy silence. "We have to trust in the strength of our unity and the righteousness of our cause. Our journey doesn't end here, this is just the beginning." Outside, dawn was creeping over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose. The group's narrow escape had not diminished their awareness of the global stakes at play. Helena's determination was palpable as she murmured, "We must move ahead, gather more allies, and piece together the true story of these interconnected artifacts. They belong to the annals of history, not the hands of tyrants." By the time they regrouped at a modest safe house in the heart of Paris, an unspoken resolve had come to bind them together. They knew that their collective pursuit was larger than any one man's ambition. It was about safeguarding the heritage of all humankind from being exploited in the quagmire of modern geopolitics. Each of them, whether professor, journalist, or renegade operative, had embraced the mantle of duty in the face of overwhelming odds. In the ensuing months, the group pieced together disparate clues that pointed to another relic hidden in Rome. The journey from Paris to Rome offered its own brand of urban intrigue. Navigating through narrow cobblestone alleys illuminated by golden streetlights and the distant hum of Vespas, the team encountered allies in unexpected places: an elderly priest who guarded ancient manuscripts in the Vatican archives, a street-smart guide named Fabio who knew every secret passage beneath the city, and even a disillusioned former operative of an international security agency yearning for redemption. Rome in the mid-1980s was a city of contrasts where ancient ruins jutted out beneath vibrant modernity, and where the weight of history bore down upon every public square. In a cramped but atmospheric cafe near the Pantheon, James carefully studied his aged map alongside Marcus, who had made a series of crucial annotations linking the Egyptian relic to similar symbols carved on Roman temples. "There's a recurring motif here," Marcus explained, tracing his finger over an intricately carved pattern. "It speaks of a cosmic balance, of light overcoming darkness, a balance that the ancient architects sought to encode in stone." Helena joined in, her voice firm as she recounted her research. "Our adversaries believe that controlling these relics will allow them to manipulate not just history, but the very principles of fate. We, however, stand for preserving the integrity of what these objects represent. They are not instruments of power to be wielded recklessly, they are reminders of the legacy of human ingenuity and resilience." As the group ventured into the ruins of a long-forgotten temple on the outskirts of Rome, under the vigilant gaze of crumbling statues and overgrown vines, an unexpected ambush shattered the quiet reverence of the ancient site. Armed men emerged from the shadows, their intentions as dark as the weathered marble that surrounded them. "Halt!" bellowed the leader, his heavy accent betraying a mix of Italian and Eastern European influences. "This sacred place is not a playground for treasure hunters. Surrender the relic, and we might show you mercy." In the ensuing melee, the battle took on an almost balletic intensity. Fabio, wielding a rusted but effective blade, fought courageously alongside Daniel, whose physical prowess was matched by his quicksilver reflexes. James and Marcus raced to secure the relic hidden within a niche behind a fractured altar. The clatter of ancient stone against modern weaponry, the shouts echoing in the hollow ruins, and the determined faces of men and women united in a cause larger than themselves, lent the fray an almost mythic quality. Amid the chaos, Helena found herself face to face with the leader of the ambushers. Their eyes locked in a silent challenge, and for a heartbeat, time felt as though it had itself become an artifact of the moment, an eternal snapshot of human determination against inevitable odds. "You will never understand," he hissed bitterly, "that the power of the relic, when united with others like it, could rewrite history." Helena's reply, measured yet defiant, cut through the tension. "History is not a script to be rewritten by those hungry for control. It is the truth of our shared human experience, constantly evolving with every choice we make." With these words, the battle reached a crescendo. Ultimately, through both cunning strategy and sheer will, the group forced back the attackers, recovering not only their hard-won relic but also new documents that hinted at an even wider network of artifacts waiting to be discovered. The adventure did not end with that victory. In the months that followed, whispers of a grand design, of ancient technology and hidden mechanisms that transcended the boundaries of time, spread throughout the academic and intelligence communities. James, now firmly anchored as the reluctant leader of this diverse band, met regularly with his companions in various safe houses across Europe. Their journey took them on late-night rides through the Swiss Alps, covered meetings in Istanbul's bustling bazaars, and secret rendezvous in the shadowed corridors of London's underground. Back in London, under the watchful gaze of grey skies and amidst a city that balanced the modern with the archaic, James convened an emergency meeting at a deserted warehouse near the Thames. The relic they had secured in Rome, now fitted with a series of cryptic devices and schematics, hinted at the existence of a final key, a mechanism said to unlock the ultimate secret encoded in a temple hidden somewhere in the deserts of Libya. The group understood that this final quest would demand every ounce of their collective skill, courage, and faith. "We stand on the precipice of history," James declared firmly, his eyes scanning the determined faces gathered before him. "We must risk everything to ensure that the relics remain symbols of cultural heritage rather than tools of oppression." The preparation was exhaustive. Over the course of several weeks in early 1985, the team secured logistics, updated their intelligence contacts, and arranged covert support with sympathetic officials. In a clandestine meeting in the back room of a modest tea shop in Soho, Helena reviewed the final set of coordinates on a map scrawled in faded ink. "This is it," she said, her voice resonating with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "The coordinates here point directly to an area near the ancient oasis of Siwa in western Egypt, a place where legends say the sands conceal more than just the passage of time." Daniel, ever the skeptic yet compelled by the gravity of their mission, asked, "And what if we're chasing a phantom? What if these relics are simply symbols to be admired, not forces to be harnessed?" His question, though laced with doubt, only underscored the enormous risk they were willing to take. James replied, "Even if they are but symbols, the truth they reveal about our past is invaluable. Without rooting ourselves in history, aren't we in danger of repeating its darkest chapters?" The journey to Siwa was fraught with challenges. The rugged terrain of the Libyan desert, with its scorching days and freezing nights, tested their endurance and resolve. Night after night, as the group huddled around flickering campfires, they shared stories of personal loss, of triumphs and failures, and of the hope that had driven them this far. In one such conversation under a star-strewn sky, Marcus confided, "I lost my brother to a war fueled by greed and misinformation. If we can prevent even a fraction of that destruction by unveiling these secrets, then our sacrifices will have meaning." His words struck a poignant chord among them, reinforcing their commitment to the cause. When the team finally arrived at the outskirts of Siwa, an uncanny silence enveloped the desolate landscape. The ancient oasis, with its shimmering mirages and solitary date palms, held an eerie beauty. There, in a derelict structure half swallowed by the dunes, lay the temple that local legend claimed was blessed by the gods themselves. With the relic securely tucked away in a specially reinforced case, James led the group into the crumbling edifice. Inside, the temple walls were lined with hieroglyphs and mysterious symbols that blurred the line between myth and reality. They discovered a central chamber that housed an imposing stone pedestal inscribed with intricate patterns. "This must be the heart of the mechanism," Daniel said, his voice hushed in reverence as he examined the carvings. Using the relic as a key, James positioned it into a carved recess. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, as if awakened from a long slumber, the pedestal shuddered, and a series of hidden compartments slid open, revealing ancient scrolls, star charts, and mechanical devices that defied explanation. The chamber was bathed in a soft, otherworldly glow that seemed to emanate from the relic itself. "We have unveiled what many believed was lost forever," Helena whispered in awe. "This is the legacy of civilizations that understood the rhythm of the cosmos. And yet, with this knowledge comes great responsibility." It was in that moment, the culmination of past trials and the promise of future revelations, that the true gravity of their quest sank in. The relics were not golden trinkets to be hoarded, they were keys to an ancient repository of wisdom that had the potential to unify fractured narratives of human history. But such power was inherently double-edged. Across the desert, far beyond the reaches of their small band, Victor Kane nursed his bitter defeat and plotted his next move. He had been careful in concealing his true affiliations, and his undying pursuit of power promised that the struggle for these relics was far from over. For weeks after their discovery, the team remained in Siwa, carefully transcribing scrolls and deciphering symbols that suggested a cosmic blueprint, a design that linked the relics to celestial cycles and long-forgotten deities. Even as Victor's operatives began infiltrating local networks and shadowing their movements, the group managed to document enough evidence to send to international historians, hoping that their findings would eventually serve as a bulwark against abuses of power. One warm evening, as the desert stars emerged to decorate the night, James gathered his companions in the quiet stillness outside the temple ruins. "We have stirred the embers of a long-dormant fire," he said, his tone resonating with solemn determination. "The world will soon know what we have learned. But we must be vigilant. There are those who would see these truths buried in the silence of ignorance." Helena, gazing at the celestial tapestry overhead, added, "Every relic is a reminder of the legacies that preceded us. We owe it to ourselves, and to future generations, to ensure that history is not rewritten by the whims of tyrants." As the dawn approached, the team prepared to depart Siwa with their precious findings and the relic, a symbol of resistance and enlightenment in a world perennially teetering between shadow and light. Their journey back to civilization was fraught with the uneasy knowledge that they were now custodians of secrets that could ignite both renaissance and ruin. Back in London, the stormy weather mirrored the turmoil in their hearts. In a discreet townhouse near Hyde Park, amid stacks of documents and relic fragments laid out on antique tables, the group met one final time to plan their next steps. Their strategy was to expose the hidden network that sought to control history's relics, a web that spanned Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. With the collected evidence now in hand, they began to craft a narrative that intertwined academic scholarship with the visceral urgency of real-world espionage. Media contacts were informed, academic journals prepared for publication, and an international conference was discreetly organized to present their discoveries. Even as whispers of retribution and covert threats began filtering through underground channels, their resolve hardened. They had ignited a spark that could not be easily extinguished. In a hushed conversation one rainy night in London, Daniel confided to James, "This is more than an adventure, isn't it? We are rewriting the rules of engagement between the past and the present." James, his eyes reflecting both the storm outside and the calm of determined purpose, replied, "Yes, Daniel. It's a battle for truth, a defense of the legacy that shapes who we are and who we may become." The ensuing months saw a delicate dance of public revelations and secret retreats. International investigators praised the academic merit of the findings, while intelligence agencies scrambled to recover what they saw as dangerous liabilities. Amid the chaos, the team stayed in close contact, meeting clandestinely in safe houses littered throughout London, Paris, and Rome. Each reunion was marked by shared smiles and weary acknowledgements of the personal costs exacted by their journey. Yet, with every reunion, their bond grew stronger, fortified by the trials they endured and the knowledge that they had dared to challenge forces that aimed to control history itself. Then came one fateful evening in late 1985, when a tall, steely-eyed man arrived at the townhouse with a briefcase full of encrypted documents and a stern message from an international council of historians and scholars. "Your work," he announced with a formal nod, "has not only unearthed relics but has also forced global institutions to reconsider the narrative of our cultural heritage. You have inspired a movement that transcends borders." While the pronouncements were delivered in diplomatic tones, it was evident that the council was wary of the counterforces mobilizing behind the scenes. The team was offered both protection and a mandate to continue the excavation of truths long hidden beneath layers of propaganda and historical revisionism. As spring turned to summer in 1986, the world around them began to change subtly. The relics, once scattered and forgotten, now took center stage in academic symposiums, museum exhibits, and even covered governmental briefings. James, Helena, Daniel, Marcus, and Oliver realized that while the struggle had not ended, a new era of transparency and public curiosity was dawning. Their shared adventure, born in the damp streets of London and carried through the desolate corridors of ancient temples, had ignited a beacon of hope, a chance for humanity to reclaim the narrative of its own past. One balmy evening, as the team gathered on the rooftop of an old building overlooking the Thames, they reflected on their extraordinary journey. The gentle ripples of the river, illuminated under a starry canopy, evoked memories of desert nights in Siwa, narrow escapes in Paris, and the ancient majesty of Rome. With voices intertwined in gratitude and solemn determination, they promised not to let their hard-earned insights be snatched away by those who would see history rewritten in blood and fear. In a quiet, reflective tone, James mused, "We are but custodians of time, charged with the protection of treasures that are not material wealth but legacies of human perseverance, creativity, and hope. Our journey has been perilous, yes, but it has also reminded us that every step we take is a step toward reclaiming the truth of our shared destiny." Their story, stretching from the foggy streets of London to the golden sands of Egypt, from the artistic enclaves of Paris to the ancient ruins of Rome, came to symbolize more than just a quest for relics. It was an odyssey of hearts driven to preserve a legacy, a call to all who believe that uncovering history's hidden layers can illuminate the path to a brighter future. And so, as the sun's first rays gently warmed the cool London morning, the team dispersed into their respective lives. The relics, the documents, and the fervor of their collective spirit had become a beacon for change, a challenge to the darkness of ignorance and manipulation. Their eyes remained fixed on the ever-receding horizon, knowing that every ending was merely a prelude to another chapter in the ceaseless adventure of life. In the final reflection of this odyssey, as each character continued to embrace the uncertainties of a world tipping between chaos and hope, they carried with them the unshakable conviction that the story of human achievement was best told through the lens of truth and unity. Their paths, though separated by cities and time zones, were forever intertwined by the shared belief that our past, with all its mysteries and marvels, should enlighten our future. And though their journey was peppered with bloodshed, heartache, and moments of terror, it was also adorned with laughter, camaraderie, and the resilient spirit of discovery. Thus, this long and winding adventure, a tapestry woven from the threads of ancient secrets, modern espionage, and the timeless quest for truth, comes to a close. It is a journey that reminds us that the line between myth and reality is often as thin as the paper on which history is written, and that the courage to unearth the past can forever shape the destiny of tomorrow. This is a fictional tale and not based on actual events. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe to my channel, like, and check the description to see how you can support my work.